government is all set to send various delegations to world capitals. One of the delegation will be going to Russia, Spain, Greece, Slovenia and Latvia. I'm being joined by former ambassador of India to Nepal, who is part of that, or who will be part of that delegation, Ambassador Manjeev Singh Puri. Thank you so much for joining us, Ambassador.
Thank you, Geeta.
Let's begin with the fact that the government of India is going to be in a diplomatic blitzkrieg. The agenda and what is the message that India wants to give with such an all-party delegation that will be going to world capitals?
Thank you, Geeta, and very delighted to be on your show. I think there are several messages. Let me start with a few simple ones, straightforward ones. A, to tell people quite clearly we are a democracy and a country in unity. That's the message of all party and some of us who come from the diplomatic world being part of it. All of us want the world to know that, this particular thing of terrorism is not something that you can shrug your shoulders and talk about de-escalation. You have to be cognizant of it. And you were cognizant at the time of 9/11, but that seems to have slipped. India has faced terrorism consistently, has brought this to the world's attention. And now what has happened, the heinous act of in Pahalgam on 22nd of April, let the world take note that terrorism should have no place in the modern day's lexicon in today and any other day. This is one message. And obvious message with that is that states that sponsor terrorism, states that nurture terrorism, they need to be called out, they need to be under scrutiny, and there needs to be a watchful eye on them. Let me mention the case of Pakistan. After the 9/11 attack, the UN had this famous committee called 1267, the resolution. And when you see the list of people who are listed there, so many of them being found in Pakistan, of course, Osama bin Laden being the most obvious case in all of this. Let me give you another sort of very important message. Look, which is, what did we do? Precise, targeted, and we made a clear message that, look, if you do this thing, which hurts the people of India, which hurts the unity of India, then there will be a response. The response will be targeted and it will be a precision response, but it will be a hard response. And the world needs to understand that this is being done because we owe a duty to our people. And this is perhaps, as far as the world is concerned, our right to protect our people, but it's actually a duty for our people. And we want the world to understand that, what we did and the way we did it was absolutely consonant with global norms, with democratic norms, and there was no other way that a country like India, attacked in such a manner, could act. And then finally, let me say a simple thing to you. Look, all countries like the idea that you actually talk to them in person. I think this makes these delegations and multi-party delegations particularly important. You reach out, you talk to them, you answer their questions. This whole thing about, Pakistan being the epicenter of global terror, we need to reach out to people. And I think, therefore, there are these multiple messages. And I don't know how to say it. Of course, I'm very privileged to be part of, an honor to be part of this national effort. But, getting a multi-party delegation from all parts of India, from all political parties, to go in one word and make this point, coming from the largest country in the world, the largest democracy, I assure you, it has great resonance.
Right. Ambassador Puri, we will talk about the details of how and what of it. But before that, Pakistan is also doing the same. Pakistan, apparently, the Prime Minister has now asked Bilawal Bhutto Zardari to also take a delegation to various world capitals. Is this a tit-for-tat kind of a situation where Pakistan is following exactly what India has been doing when it comes to messaging, whether it be the press conferences or, for that matter now, diplomatic delegation?
Geeta, they are a sovereign country. They can do what they want. And as you just said, copycat is something that, they certainly know very well. But my way of looking at it, that, when they will land up there in the capitals that we have visited and other places in the world, I look at it very positively. It will clearly unmask them in front of the other people, because it will give those people an opportunity to ask them and question them on what we would have laid out in front of them, and then straight away unmask them. Let me draw your attention to these interviews by Sky News' very well known anchor, Yalda Hakim. You remember she interviewed the Indian High Commissioner, and then she interviewed the Pakistani High Commissioner and several other Pakistani ministers. And every one of them, trying to make their point, actually slipped. And this is what I have no doubt in my mind. It'll get exposed. And so, therefore, let them do what they want to do and go out and reach them. But let us also remember that countries in the world, in particular now with a lot of globalization, they know what it is and they know what are the right questions to ask and to unmask those who are trying to cover up what they have done through these kind of moves like, visit capitals, play the victim card, etc. Won't wash.
Right. Has a decision been taken on what kind of or what level of engagement you're going to have when you go to the world capitals, the kind of meetings you're going to hold? What's the level of those meetings? What are the level? How is it going to look like, and what's the level really going to be?
Geeta, I'm in no position to share this with you because we are all in the process of being briefed tomorrow by the
Mm-hmm.
Foreign Secretary, and we will then have an idea. And the government is working on all of this. But look, I have no doubt that we will meet key people, and particularly key people who come from the democratic side, i.e., parliamentarians, people in the diplomatic stakeholding, the foreign ministry, and so on. Remember, our delegations are being led by people with a very high stature, not
Yeah.
just India, but recognize the world over. For example, the delegation of which I am a part is being led by Ms. Kani Mozi. I mean, she is such a big leader in her own right, politically within the country. And the countries where we go, they know who these people are and who they are and what they intrinsically stand for. And so, therefore, I have no doubt that there would be a great interest among all the countries that we visit to meet and talk to our legislators, our MPs, of course, because they are from across the political spectrum, but also because of the leadership that they bring, the voice of the people that they bring, the voice of the largest democracy which they represent, and how they are representing it in unity.
Right. Ambassador Puri, as somebody who served as Deputy Permanent Representative of India to the United Nations, you worked very closely on issues of terrorism when you were there and how India raised it at various quarters. But there has always been one and the biggest roadblock. In this case, how do you see that really pan out? And I'm talking about China over here. Siding. It's not a position of neutrality, which is what maybe these all party delegations are going to do. That this cannot be a situation where countries are neutral, that they need to really stand with India. But you're seeing China, Turkey, and Azerbaijan actually stand with Pakistan.
So, Geeta, it's not for me to talk about what those countries do, and it's very well known. Look, Turkey is an old friend of Pakistan, a supporter. It's not from now. They've done it for decades and so on, and therefore supplying them with drones, etc. at this time, totally unacceptable given the kind of relations that we have with Turkey. Remember, President Erdogan was here for the G20 summit and the
Yes.
relationship that we built with them. Similarly, with Azerbaijan, a country with which we believe we have friendly relations, but there's always been this particular issue vis-a-vis them. Now, China is a completely different ballgame. We have sets of issues. It's not surprising that the Chinese bat for them, sometimes behind the curtain, sometimes in front of that, and they've done it at the UN too. After all, every time we bring credible evidence for listing of someone or the other under the various anti-terror mechanisms, the Chinese huff and haw, play this game over a long, protracted period till a time comes when they find themselves fully isolated and they perhaps think that it's wiser to go along and let it happen. And this invariably would happen. I understand this time also we have people who've gone to New York who are talking to the various counter-terrorism mechanisms which have been set up in the UN, especially post 9/11, and which are now quite robust and strong. And we are reaching out to them. That's important. All of them understand, but it's an intergovernmental game. The Security Council, and so the Chinese do have a certain kind of leverage, and they do use their leverage. Let me say fairly openly for those who are concerned. Remember another thing: Pakistan is serving on the Security Council this year. Now, the fact that they are currently on the Security Council, you would have thought should have given them a great deal of edge up. No, I don't think so. The world knows, and every time they try to bring up the subject, people question them, which leaves them kind of red-faced, and they have to go in front of the microphone and by themselves because no one else is willing to do it. Having said this, because they are there, they do have a little bit of a margin of persuasion. Perhaps not to say that people will say no, but that people might just say, okay, just behave yourself, get your act together, and take it on. Look, these are geopolitical issues that we are very cognizant of. After all, neither Pakistan nor China was born yesterday. We know these issues, but I want to make a simple point to you, Geeta. India is now not only the largest country in the world in terms of population, we are the fourth largest economy. Not many people realize that the latest World Economic Outlook 2025, released by the IMF in March of this year, ranked India as the fourth largest economy, not fifth, as we have always been saying, pipping Japan in the process. We are a country of interest to other countries. Look at the Chinese, look at the business that they do with us. Are they not interested? Very much interested. Absolutely. We are a huge market. And so, therefore, we are a country of interest to people. And as we grow our economy, as we grow our clout globally, people will realize that, look, here is a country which is not only well-meaning, democratic, good, but also a country which serves their interests. And so, therefore, be more mindful, even the slight amount. Look at this. We may talk about the fact that, two countries came out in support of Pakistan. Nobody else did. The de-escalation, let's read it a little differently. If countries are far away, what else do you expect them to say? Please de-escalate. After all, there is this business that both are nuclear powers. We have very categorically said we won't succumb to nuclear blackmail. But for countries which are far away, the understandings tend to be more simplistic. But having said all this, believe me, as India rises up the global ladder, for almost all countries in the world, their interest lies in being on India's side. And we need to push this, and make them more cognizant of this, including on the very critical issue that, terror and terrorism and those who purvey this, they need to be marked out, insulated, isolated, etc. But that countries which fight on that do a global duty, not just a duty to their own citizens.
Right. Now, before I let you go, the composition of each delegation is very interesting. It just expresses various religions coming together, regions coming together, but also politico-diplomatic core coming together. In many ways, unity in diversity, Ambassador Puri, but also diplomats in each delegation clearly to navigate that entire diplomatic space. You've been a European hand yourself, know Europe very well, but you also have Russia here. How are you going to navigate the space? And if you could talk about unity and diversity as well.
So, this is very well put what you just said. We are perhaps the most diverse, large country in the world. And we are proud of this particular thing. This is our national ethos, and this is who we are. Russia is also a very large country. Look, Russia knows us very well, just as we know them very well. We have a strong, abiding relationship. We have a relationship which, through the Ukraine war, it continued. We had the Prime Minister visiting there, very well received by President Putin. We bought oil from them at a time when the world was saying no. Of course, it may have served our interest, but it also served their interest. So, they understand all of these particular things. And it is important that we reach out to them because, let me put it very simply, Russia is a P5 member. Russia is a very important stakeholder in the world, a country with which we have strong diplomatic, military, space, nuclear, trade, and all other kinds of ties. They would also like to hear directly from us, from, in fact, the entire India, as is symbolized by a parliamentary delegation, which encompasses all political parties, people from all parts of India, all religions, everyone. They would like to hear from us. They are strong allies, as was perhaps best noted in the phone call that President Putin made to Prime Minister Modi after the attacks, where he was, in my understanding, absolutely clear that recognizing that India has a right to protect its people and do what it needs to do.
Right. Ambassador Puri, only hoping that these delegations that are sent to world capitals take that right message and the message is heard loud and clear. Thank you so much for joining us here on the network.
Thank you.